I chose the country of Panama because it is the country I was born in and I've always wanted to go back, and it is a very interesting place. It is the only place in the world where you can see the sun rise in the Pacific and set in the Atlantic, and it is one of the most diverse countries in Central and South America, and I will be going over the history of Panama in this presentation. To start, there are 11 native tribes in Panama, and the picture in the top left shows the regions in which they lived inside the country of Panama. There's a picture down on the bottom left showing a tribe dancing. Then there's artwork at the top right of a local tribe in Panama. Then there's a tribeswoman on the bottom right of the screen. The conquistadors from Spain arrived in 1501. Panama was discovered by Rodrigo de Bastidas. His first mate, Vasco Núñez de Balboa, was the first European to ever see the Pacific Ocean. Santa Maria la Antigua de Darien was the first permanent European settlement in the New World in Panama, and it was set up by Vasco Núñez de Balboa. The next part I will talk about is the Panama Canal. It is a 48-mile-long international waterway that saves about 8,000 miles of traveling around South America. And here are a few pictures that show how the canal goes through Panama. And then the top picture shows how there are levels that bring the boats up to a higher level than the ocean and then brings them back down in the Pacific or back into the Atlantic Ocean. The French began to work on the canal in 1879, led by Fernandad de Lesseps. They eventually ended up failing in 1889, and that can be explained by this picture. The bottom part of the picture is how the French tried to make it as a sea level canal where they would just go straight through, but the way that it was eventually made was the lock type canal, which is explained here in the upper picture. And this is a picture of Fernandad himself. From 1819, Panama was part of the District of Columbia. When the United States got involved in 1902, Colombia rejected the idea for them to build the canal. This led to a revolution backed by the United States and eventually Panamanian independence in 1903. The canal was successfully built between 1904 and 1912, and the canal zone was mostly settled by U.S. citizens and West Indians who worked in the zone. In the 1960s, anti-American riots began, and then in 1977, 60% of the canal zone was returned to Panama when President Jimmy Carter signed a treaty. The remaining canal zone was returned to Panama on December 31st, 1999, and the transition was fairly easy because over 90% of the canal employees were Panamanian by 1996. Another interesting fact on the canal is that in 1977, a treaty made the canal zone a neutral waterway even in times of war so that any ship could pass through safely. As I said before, Panama is one of the most diverse countries in Central or South America. 70% of the population is mixed Armenian and Caucasian, called mestizo or mulatto, which is a mix between black and Caucasians. 14% are Armenian and mixed West Indians, 10% are white, which are mostly European, 6% are Armenian, and there's a population of about 100,000 Chinese. Panama also has the most diverse wildlife of all the countries in South America and Central America. It is home to both North as well as South American species. To go along with the animals, Panama also houses over 10,000 different types of plant species, including 1,200 varieties of orchids, 678 ferns, and more than 1,500 varieties of trees. I have learned much from making this presentation. I did not know before that the country I was born in, Panama, was so diverse with so many different cultures inside of it, and also it had so many different animal and plant species. I did not also realize that it took so long for Panama to become the owner of the Panama Canal, which runs straight through their country. Whereas getting total independence goes, it does not vary too far from the United States, as they both had to go through a revolution of their own.